Hi there. I want to talk about the connection between ineffective addiction treatment and the diagnoses for mental illness and how that connection affects recovery from addiction. So we have a ton of addiction in the world, right? We've got drugs and alcohol, nicotine, in a lot of different forms now, not just smoking. And we have food, big time, gambling, screen time, gaming, sex and love addiction, relationship addiction, which, I mean, it's just everywhere with all this, narcissism and people trying to get out of narcissistic relationships. But now, in addition to the addiction crisis, we have a mental illness crisis, right? So which came first? Are people engaging in addiction more because they're mentally ill, or is a lack of effective treatment causing more mental illness? So, I mean, I worked with a woman who she's a compulsive eater, right? And she, tried to deal with it for years and years and years. And as that happened, she basically ended up with about 6 different disorders, syndromes, addictive personality disorder, ADHD, OCD. There were a lot. And a list of prescriptions, like literally a mile long, that they're always trying to balance out that they prescribe for these disorders, right? A lot of those are very addictive medications, right? Don't stop without, checking with your doctor. So it can be, helpful to a certain extent to look back on childhood experiences and traumas and, difficult childhood environments because someone who grows up in a difficult environment, they usually say, oh, I have addictive personality, whatever. But when they're in that difficult environment, they get their hands on something that changes the way they feel, mood or mind altering substances or experiences, they latch on because they really like feeling different than they feel. Where someone who's got a basically happy environment that they're growing up in, they get high, whatever, and they're like, oh, okay, but they don't latch on as deeply and then, have that addictive personality, which now we've labeled, right? So you got the people that are a lot more susceptible, right? And then you hear people say all the time that, oh, these addicts, they really don't want help, which I think is not true at all. In my experience, some of the things that people do to try to stop these behaviors, gastric bypass, is very extreme. They're desperate, they're desperate to stop, and then they can't find an effective method. At the very least, there's something with a very small percentage of success. And so there they are, they're desperate to stop and can't find anything that's effective. So that would drive anybody mad. I remember when I wanted to stop smoking and I tried all the bullshit out there and I thought, oh my God, I'm stuck with this. That is enough to drive you mad. And then, of course, I found my mentor's class and was successful. But then it's like, well, what's wrong with me? How come I can't stop doing this, right? So then enter the diagnosis for mental illness, right? It's just this really bad cycle. And again, then there's the medications that there's so much ADHD now. When I was a kid, there was one guy in high school who had ADHD and used to sell his Ritalin to people so they could get high from it, right? But now it's like they're given Adderall, highly addictive drugs rather than being able to deal with the addiction effectively. And so then when now you're diagnosed, right? So now you've got all these disorders, and it's just, well, this is just who I am, right? Which justifies engaging in the addictive and compulsive behaviors. And there you are in a total position of helplessness, right? So if you can shift that to, okay, I'm a person who is experiencing addictive desire right now or compulsive desire right now, then you are in a position of empowerment where you can make an informed choice in the moment rather than this is just who I am, you know. So I teach people how to make that informed choice moment to moment and be able to permanently change the neural pathways by being able to make that choice, continue to make that choice until it becomes literally a non-issue. And so permanent mental freedom from addiction is possible, that you don't have to be living on the edge. That's just not true, you know. And going from one addiction to another, I just saw an article a friend sent me about Eminem, who is basically says the only way to stay sober is to have an exercise addiction. Well, but that's better, right? Well, no, addiction is not one addiction. I mean, there's different consequences, but one's not better than the other. Addiction is addiction. There's no freedom. There's no peace of mind. So after a significant resistance, I have recorded my classes. They're online. My full intensive series is online. You can use the link below to get to that. And you can have in-depth addiction treatment in the privacy of your own home. You know, not everyone wants to go out there and profess their addiction to the world in some big group meeting, right? You can do it in your own time, privacy of your own home. So you can click the link below. And it's also really helpful to me if you hit the subscribe for this channel and spread the word. You know, there's just too much addiction. Literally, in the last couple days, I've heard of 2 people, you know, in my circle that are basically, you know, dying from addiction. So it doesn't have to be that way. So again, subscribe if you would. That'd be great. And then you can hit the link below and go get my classes online on my website. Take care.